Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Frank Motola. He is the founder and president of Brandtastic out of Tampa, and he's here today to talk to us about all things digital marketing, but specifically search engine optimization. So welcome to the show, Frank Motola.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Well, give us a brief background on yourself and
Sure.
Brandtastic, and let us know your background here.
So Brandtastic is a small marketing company. I have been involved in marketing my entire career, which spans several decades. And recently, of course, everything is pointing to the web. So that's where we focus most of our efforts. We build websites, we manage AdWords, we manage social media, manage reviews. There's just so much to do, it becomes overwhelming, and that's why small to medium-sized businesses trust us to become their partner in getting this done in a way that's going to benefit them and most importantly, give results. So currently we have probably 20 clients across the country that we do this type of work for.
Okay, so you really work with the small to medium-sized businesses. Are these local businesses that focus on local search, or is it more product-based businesses?
They are service-based businesses for the most part, but we do work with a couple manufacturers as well. So the things that need to be done are pretty much in common, though there's differences. But we prefer service businesses because typically they're so busy running their business that they may not have time to do all the things they need to do. They may not be able to afford to have a full-time marketing person, but still they're going to these seminars and they're hearing other business people talk about, doing well on the web, coming up in search, getting their business from web leads. So they need to get this, and they really need someone to help them. Although it can be done by anybody can learn to do this. It's just a matter of having the time to do it, I guess, which most business people don't.
Yep, that is the asset that most people don't have, is the time. And these small to local businesses are the backbone of America. They are the ones that are working every day and providing the services for all of us. So really, what are they looking for from you? What kind of things or what kind of questions are they asking you for help?
Well, typically, when we meet with someone, we'll do an audit of their current situation. And many times, if they're not getting results, there's a reason for that. And that might be that they have a website that's just not doing the job. They may have had a starter website or had a friend do a website. And it takes really an organized effort to really create a website that's going to represent the company, tell their story, and encourage people to sign up for whatever service or product they're selling. So people have a very short attention span. When they're searching on Google and they land on a website, they're going to immediately decide, well, is this the guy I want to hire or girl I want to hire, or do I keep looking? So actually the battle starts there is, when they search on Google, many of my clients are not being found. So that's the first thing we look at is what are the keywords that are going to drive business for them? And then we'll track that and show them exactly how they're doing in their local market for those type of searches. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're not even showing up on the first several pages of Google. And everyone knows that you have to be on the first page to be found. So that's where we start.
Right.
And
so what kind of point do they get to? What goes through their heads? Like you said, they may have had a friend or family member build them a shell of a site. what gets them to that point to say, I need help now. I'm losing customers by not being found online.
Right. So, well, one of the things they think is, this is going to cost more than I can afford. But the question they need to ask is, can they afford not to do it? Because their competition is investing in this and they're getting beat. So it's pretty much a question of whether you want your business to grow or if you just want to sort of muddle along. I mean, everyone knows word of mouth is the best advertising you can get. So if a company can survive just on their existing customers giving referrals, then more power to them. They don't need this web traffic. But most service businesses like painters or pool cleaners, that type of thing, they need that steady flow of new customers finding them and then deciding that they want to call them. So once they get over that initial shock that, I need to make a substantial investment, and then they're going to start thinking, well, I've heard a lot of bad things about SEO and about web people, and how do I know I'm getting my money's worth, and how do I know it's going to work? So my advice is, anyone you talk to, you got to make sure that they have a record of success and getting results for other clients. Ask for some referrals, so some references, so you can call other businesses and find out about them. Because there are several, great companies out there that do a great job, but unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that in this web marketing world that are more than happy to take your money and give you very little in return.
Yes, unfortunately, the reputation within the web marketing world is not great, but ultimately there are a lot of great companies out there that do great work. You just have to be able to find them and have that confidence in them. So, Frank, talk to me about some of the things that really help with SEO then.
Okay, so after that first audit, many times we're going to find, they only have a 12-page website, and it's not optimized, as you would call it. Search engine optimization means that the site needs to be built in a certain way that Google can understand. So once we decide that, and we decide, we got to build a new site, we're going to invest the time to use our writers to create unique content that is talking about all the different services they do in detail. So to compete, most of the time we're finding you're going to need basically 40 to 50 pages, depending on what the competition is doing. And many of our clients got into this 10 years ago. We've been doing websites for 20 years, actually. And the ones that got in early found that they got a good position early, and they're able to maintain that by doing the ongoing things they need to do. But for a newcomer to break in, you really have to make a big impression, and it can't be done incrementally where, let's do a little bit here and a little bit there. It's just never going to get anywhere. And we've tried that, and we know from experience that doesn't work. So let's spend a few months. We're going to do it right. We're going to get a good photography, which reacts well with the end user when they see, this is a customer I can trust. I see his guys out there. I see his vehicles. I see his place of business on his website. There's not stock photos. We have a lot of good content. I can find exactly what I'm looking for. That's the kind of site that you need. Now, there's probably 200, at least that's what Google says, different factors that they look at. And of course, we don't have time to talk about all of them, but number one is content. And that's just what I've described here. But behind the scenes of that content, there's actually what are called meta tags. And I don't want to get into the weeds here, but they're hidden tags that Google looks at. Just think of it as an outline of the page. So there'll be a title tag, a description tag, a keyword tag. There's tags on every photo. So these tags may not show up on the website, but they're there for Google to look at and get that quick. The robot looks at that and they say, okay, this is what the page is about. This is the content on the page. It matches what they've told me in the meta tags. So we may give this a good grade. Let's say they're grading it. So every single web page on your site is looked at individually. Now there's 100 trillion plus pages on Google right now. So that means there's a lot of competition. So you have to create that comprehensive package of all of your pages that are all done correctly in order to make that big splash and hope to beat everyone else is trying to be number 1 or 2 or 3.
Okay, so let's break this down just a little bit. So for somebody that has an old site that might only have a dozen pages, you recommend building a nice, new, good-looking, clean site that has 40 to 50 pages on it. Is that something that you would do right away as fast as possible, or is that something that you would drip out over time?
No, we would leave the existing site there and do it over time. So most of our projects do take about 3 months, which isn't all that long, and then the change is made overnight. And there's a lot of other factors that go into making it successful. The content is number 1. Another big part is links pointing at your site. And when you mentioned, say you had an older site, I just wanted to touch on that. The fact that you've had a domain, and even if it's not doing well, if you've had the same domain out there for 3 years or more, that has created a lot of trust. Even though it doesn't rank well on Google, it is really tremendous to take something like that and then improve it and make it better, because you'll get way ahead of the guy who's just starting out in business and buys a new domain and needs to start from scratch, and Google has never seen that domain. So that's one advantage if you do have an older site and you've had it for a while. But back to the links, the best way that we build these type of links are by putting listings out there on other websites. So there's websites that we've all heard about, like Yellow Pages or Super Pages or Manta, or there's thousands of them actually. And what we call those are citation links. So that's a whole separate side of what the work that needs to be done. These links allow you to put up a free listing, and you can talk about your business there. You can add photos. You can put a link to your website, which is the most important thing, because that's what Google's going to see, is that, wow, this company has all these other listings that are pointing to them. That side of the business is really related to your local Google My Business page. And that page is what shows up on local results. So most people that search Google are familiar with, if they were to search like house painter Farmington, that's one of my clients. He's in Farmington, Connecticut. So you'd want to, there's a Farmington, Michigan too, but house painter Farmington, Connecticut, you'll see him come up in the map with, there's 3 results usually, 2 or 3, and there's hundreds of people that want to be there, but that listing right there is tied to your Google My Business page, which is a huge part of your online marketing presence, because local search is extremely important. When someone's on their phone and looking for a house painter, they search that, they're probably going to choose one of those first few that come up. They have the review stars showing, and everything above that is usually an ad from AdWords, and then everything below that is what we call organic listing, which is strictly based on the power of the website alone. So there's 2 sides to SEO and to ranking. The local side is tied to the Google My Business listing, plus needs to be supported by all of these other links that we build and that you can build yourself. if you would like to, I'll give you a link at the end of the discussion where your listeners can actually go and find these links and build their own citations, which will help them show up in search.
Excellent. Great resource there. Make sure we get that. So other than the citations on these different directory sites, what other kind of links really help boost the page?
Well, it all depends on the budget you have and the sophistication of your company. Many times, let's say you are that house painter and you have a friend that's a contractor and they work with you. Maybe they'll put a link on their website that will point to you. So that's a good thing. The bad way to build links is to buy them. That's definitely taboo as far as Google's concerned. And if they start seeing links to your website that come from these spammy type pages that indicate that they've been paid for it, you'll actually get penalized. So they can be built naturally. In fact, I just picked this painter, but it's a good example to illustrate this. We run, once this website's done, when I talk about ongoing work, what we do is we continue building new content and put it out in a form of a blog post. So when it comes to painting, there's hundreds of topics you could talk about. And we talked about one that was how to clean flat paint walls. And that just became so popular that we were getting thousands of visits from all over the country that were finding this because it ranked so well. And then we found other bloggers and real estate agents and other people were linking to this naturally and sharing it as a good resource. So that's the ideal way to build links, is by putting out good content that people want to share naturally. We have a higher end client who actually ran a scholarship for the past 3 years in order to attempt to get links from what are called EDU sites, colleges and universities, which are very valuable because the value of the link is based on the value of the site that it comes from. So when this company has a link coming in from, the University of Virginia pointing at their site, because we're offering a scholarship, of course, that adds a lot to the power that they gather by their links. And all this can be measured. There's tools that you can use to measure the link strength of your site. It can run from 0 to 100 when you measure it. Facebook is 100. It's a very strong site. And if you were to buy a new domain and you just started a site, you would start pretty much at 1. So it does get complicated, and that's why you really should find a trusted partner, just like you would an accountant or a lawyer. It's so important to your business. It's really essential to do your web marketing in a way that's going to bring in new business.
So we've got the content being a huge priority, and quality content that people are going to want to share and put on their own sites or link back to. Then you've got to have all the meta tags, the title descriptions. We've got the links. What else? What else makes a difference?
Well, I touched on the fact that the Google ads show up at the top. So that can be another way to reach people, is by participating in AdWords, and we are AdWords partners. So we include that with most of our clients. They have a budget that they spend on AdWords, and it can be very targeted, and there's ways to get the most out of that. The ads are the first 4 results usually that show up on a page, and there's also some at the bottom of the page. So Google is in business to make billions of dollars. So their main income comes from these ads, and they kind of push out the other stuff, but people are smart, and many people, it's estimated probably 60 to 70% of people do not click on an ad. They go to the first local or the first organic result underneath the ads. But still, if you can get 30 to 40% of the people with an ad, it's probably worth doing that. And then, of course, social media is another way to reach people. There's Facebook ads, there's Pinterest, there's a host of different platforms where you can increase your branding and your identity and drive new business that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things within digital marketing that work together just to get more eyeballs to the site. Now,
Exactly.
Speaking of getting eyeballs to the site, how important are things like the click-through rate and time on site?
Very. That's a great question. Being able to measure your results is something you definitely need to do. So Google Analytics provides a host of details about all the visitors to your site, where they came from, what pages they visited, how long they spent on the site. So that is a free tool that they offer. It's very easy to put on a site. And I offer to do that for free for people just when we get together the first time, just so we can set a benchmark of where they're at now, how many visits they're getting, and how good the site's doing. And you can also include in that the AdWords results. So if you do have a budget for AdWords, you'll see how many clicks are coming in from those ads. And same thing with social media. So you'll see the visits that come in from Google, from ads, from Bing, from Yahoo, from Facebook, Pinterest. It'll identify every source of the visit and every area that they're from. The one thing it doesn't tell you is exactly what keyword they searched, which is unfortunate, but Google used to allow that information to be seen, and then they thought that it was a privacy issue to share that. So they hide that information now.
Well, that is a bit of a shame, because you really do need to know what keywords to put some extra effort onto to get
exactly.
more people.
Yeah, that's sort of what the whole construction of the website is framed around is, when you think about your company, well, you have to think about what is my best customer searching for, and then try to imagine what they would search to find that.
So talk to me about the time on site. Is that a major ranking factor now? And what kinds of things can you put on the web page to get people to stay there longer?
Sure, people love videos. So if you do have, and YouTube is owned by Google, so Google, gives a lot of love to YouTube videos that are connected to your website. So if on your home page you have an engaging video, that's going to keep them there a while. If you're answering questions, that's many times the way we find visits coming in. So, how can I, that example I gave, how do I clean flat paint walls? Just think of the questions that your customers ask you, and then make sure you have a page on your site that answers that question. Because that's kind of the way people treat Google, is they're going to be asking Google, well, how do I find a painter in my neighborhood or something, whatever specifically they're interested in. As far as the factor, a high bounce rate it's called. So if someone comes to your website and leaves immediately, that can either mean one or two things. Either they're just looking for your phone number, which you want to have on the top of the website, by the way, or they are not impressed enough to go any further. So your navigation needs to be clear. You need to have a call to action, of course, or a contact form or an offer. And it needs to be, once they land, if they don't see exactly what they want, your navigation needs to be a way that they can find it quickly. So it is a factor. I don't think it's a huge factor in ranking, but it can affect things. If Google sees that you're running these ads and people are not even staying on the site, then they're probably going to charge you more for the ads because your quality score is not going to be as good as it needs to be.
Definitely a lot of things to be concerned about.
Every morning when I wake up, there's more things that I learn about that I need to factor into the equation.
Yeah, as if 200 wasn't enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about mobile then, Frank. Where are we heading with mobile, and what do businesses need to know about that?
Sure. Probably over 2 years ago now, there was an event that we called Mobilegeddon, where Google promised that they were going to punish websites that were not mobile friendly. And for a while, they even had a warning that would come up on the listing that said not mobile friendly. They kind of backed off on that a little, but it is still extremely important. And back then, I believe 40% only of the sites were mobile friendly. So there was a huge number of people that needed to get up to speed on that. So if your site was built, 5 years ago or something like that, and you look at it on a phone and you see that it's quite small and you need to pinch and increase size for an area to read a portion of it, you know that it's not mobile friendly. A mobile friendly site needs to convert into a presentation that's very easy to get through and to navigate on a phone. Most estimates are that 50% or more of the internet search traffic is from a phone. So if you're not doing that, then likely you're going to lose a lot of visits. And we can see that in analytics. That's another thing you can see is how many people visited from a phone, how many visited from a tablet, and how many from a desktop. So you may find that, okay, if it's a big purchase, they may be doing a quick search on their phone, finding a few people that look good. They might call them. They might visit the store, or they might go home and do more research in depth on a desktop. So you have to consider all these factors, but there's something called a responsive website, which is really the best way to go. And that kind of usually ties into having what's called a WordPress website. You're probably familiar with WordPress, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's a content management system and it's easily adaptable to mobile. So if you were to take your web browser and just make it very narrow, you would see it convert to different stages along the way. And then eventually the very narrowest would illustrate how it would look on a phone. But what that does is it makes all of your content on your website available on your phone version. In the older versions of mobile sites, they were making what was called a designated mobile site, so that if the website detected that the visit was coming from a mobile phone, it would deliver a different version of the site, sort of a scaled down version. But that just made it more difficult to manage because you actually had two websites you needed to manage, whereas the responsive is taking everything that's on your website and just rearranging it so it looks good on a phone. And Google has just come out with a mobile first indexing, it's called. So just in the past month, it's telling us that they're favoring the information that's found on the mobile site over anything else when it comes to determining where you're going to rank. So with this responsive design, you can be assured that you've got that covered because all of your information is going to be on the mobile version.
So there's definitely a lot of stuff that we need to think about that is on site and with web development that is important with SEO. What other technical aspects of SEO are important?
Well, a big factor is the load time of your site. So if there's anything technically wrong, or if your photos are uploaded and they're too big, they're much bigger than they need to be, there's a site called Pingdom, Pingdom, that has a free tool where you can measure how long it takes your website to load. And that really needs to be a second or less. If it's several seconds, you can be sure that many people are just not going to wait that long. People are very impatient and they expect everything to load quickly. So site load time is very important. can't really think of too many other things. I mean, there's so many things. It's just mind-boggling sometimes, but
that's right. There's certainly a lot to think about. Frank, give us an example of somebody that you have worked with. I know we've talked a little bit about the painting, but is there anybody else that sticks out in your mind that came to you with a problem? They weren't getting the traffic or the sales that they wanted. How were you able to help them, and ultimately, what was the outcome for that business?
Sure. I'll go to a bigger company. This company is in Atlanta, and they actually do work on smokestacks. So it's a very niche market. And they had an older, outdated site, which we did redo. So it involved creating a lot of new content, and it's very technical, a lot of it. So we're talking to a whole different audience than somebody that wants their house painted. So that's always what you need to think about, is who are we targeting? What is the audience? What is their level of knowledge about this stuff? How are they thinking about their needs? So this particular company, if they get one job, it's going to be $500,000 or more. So they have a fairly large budget to invest, and they have a small audience that they need to reach. So the CEO was doing a lot of this stuff himself, and he finally got to the point where he just didn't have the time to do it. So we did this site over. We started ranking organically very well. So if you were to search smokestack inspection or anything along those lines, you'll see this company, Industrial Access is their name. They'll come up not only with an ad on AdWords, but they'll come up with sometimes a video. They'll also show on the first page, usually number one, for an organic result. And he also has several offices that we've put the Google My Business page to work on across the country. So it's just an ongoing effort to continue to try to build him into the superstar of his business in a nationwide sense. So it was a much different tactic that we had to think about, a long-term situation, but he's very happy with it, and his company's grown tremendously. He's the one that's doing the scholarship as well. So,
all right, great. Great stuff. Yeah, it makes a huge difference to your business when you are seen as the authority and you're showing up everywhere. People want to do business with the best, and if you're up there, that's what they're going to think.
Right.
Well, Frank Motola, it has been great talking with you today. You give us a lot of great information, really getting in depth about what is needed with SEO to get the site ranking and looking good and converting. If somebody wants to reach out to you, Frank, for help, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, of course, you can call me, 813-441-0275. Or I've created a link that's called 2020go.com. Easy to remember, 2020go.com. It's nothing fancy, but it has a summary of all the different things that you might want to consider when you're thinking about stepping up your game in terms of web marketing. And it's designed for people who may want to do it themselves, but the best customer for us is somebody that's educated and understands what it is that needs to be done. So on that page, you'll see a couple of videos and a lot of information about the things we talked about. I hope I didn't confuse too many people, because it is kind of geeky, and a lot of my customers just say, stop talking, Frank. I know you're doing a good job. Just do what you got to do.
Well, I think a lot of business owners have looked into SEO to try and figure it out, and they've at least had that conversation with somebody as to what they need to do. So there's definitely a slight understanding, but like you said, there is just so much to learn and so much to know that it's very hard to do all by yourself.
It is.
Well, I encourage anybody listening to reach out to Frank. He definitely has a great understanding of SEO and has proven his results with his clients. So Frank Motola, thank you very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
It was fun, Neil. Thank you.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.